the story of a mysterious queen that has captivated three great civilizations for over 3,000 years. 3,000 years ago, a queen crossed the desert with a caravan so long that it turned the entire horizon golden. She did not come to bow before Solomon. She came to challenge him. The most enigmatic woman in the Bible, the Queen of Sheba, a symbol of beauty, power, and silence. No one knows where she came from. No tomb, no signature. Only a legend that forced three major religions to write her name. The story of the woman who challenged the wisest king in the world and left behind a mystery that has lasted more than 3,000 years. 3,000 years ago, under the blazing sun of the Arabian desert, an endless caravan of camels slowly moved across the golden dunes. At its head was a woman, seated on a saddle adorned with gold and precious stones. A woman whose real name history never recorded. In the Hebrew Bible, she is simply called the Queen of Sheba. In Ethiopian tradition, she is Makeda. To Arabs and Muslims, she is known as Bilqis. There is no tombstone bearing her name. No confirmed portrait of her exists. No archaeological document absolutely proves she ever lived. Yet for more than 3 millennia, the story of the Queen of Sheba has been recorded, revered, and debated by the world's 3 greatest religions: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Who was she? Where did she come from? And why has her story survived every rise and fall of history, becoming one of the earliest and most powerful symbols of female authority in the ancient world? 3 versions, 1 legend. The story of the Queen of Sheba first appears in the Hebrew Bible, specifically in 1 Kings 10:1-13 and 2 Chronicles 9:1-12. This is the simplest account. A queen from a distant land hears of Solomon's wisdom, visits him with a huge retinue carrying gold, precious stones, and rare spices. She tests him with hard riddles, is overwhelmed by his wisdom and the wealth of Israel, and returns home. In Islamic tradition, the story is retold in Surah 27 of the Quran with more fantastical details. Solomon's hoopoe bird reports a kingdom ruled by a woman who worships the sun instead of Allah. Solomon sends her a letter. When she arrives, he tricks her with a glass floor that looks like water, causing her to lift her skirt. In the end, she abandons sun worship and accepts Solomon's God. The most dramatic and detailed version comes from Ethiopia in the 14th century national epic Kebra Nagast, The Glory of the Kings. Here, the Queen of Sheba, Makeda, not only visits Solomon but is seduced by him and gives birth to a son, Menelik I. According to legend, Menelik later brought the Ark of the Covenant from Jerusalem to Ethiopia, founding the Solomonic dynasty that ruled Ethiopia for nearly 3,000 years until Emperor Haile Selassie in the 20th century. 2 locations, 1 great question. So where was Sheba really located? The most widely accepted theory identifies Sheba with the kingdom of Saba in present-day Yemen, one of the most powerful states in southern Arabia, flourishing from roughly the 8th century BCE to the 3rd century CE. Its capital was Marib, about 120 kilometers east of modern Sana'a. Their archaeologists have found the famous Marib Dam, one of the greatest engineering marvels of the ancient world, built around the 8th century BCE. Saba's wealth came not only from agriculture, but above all from controlling the incense trade route, the overland trade in frankincense and myrrh from southern Arabia to the Mediterranean. These resins were immensely valuable in antiquity for religious rites, medicine, and embalming. The route was 1,931 kilometers long and took 65 days one way, with camel caravans carrying gold, incense, myrrh, spices, and luxury goods. Archaeology has confirmed that Saba really existed. At Marib, the Temple of Awam, also called Maram Bilqis, the sanctuary of Bilqis, has been excavated, along with thousands of inscriptions in ancient South Arabian script. Yet none of these inscriptions mention a queen ruling Saba at the time of Solomon. The second theory places Sheba in Ethiopia, specifically the ancient kingdom of Aksum in northern Ethiopia and Eritrea. Ethiopian tradition insists that Queen Makeda ruled from Aksum and visited Solomon around the 10th century BCE. However, archaeologists date the rise of Aksum to the 1st century CE, almost 1,000 years later. Both regions show deep cultural connections. Sabaeans migrated to Ethiopia, bringing their script, religion, and architecture. Inscriptions in Sabaean script have been found in Ethiopia's Tigray region. The Bab el-Mandeb Strait, only 30 kilometers wide, link the Arabian Peninsula and the Horn of Africa by a natural trade route. Modern scholars tend to favor Yemen as the more likely location, given the stronger archaeological evidence for a wealthy kingdom there in the relevant period. Yet no direct archaeological proof of the queen herself exists. What matters most is that all three great religions agree on one thing. She was a powerful, intelligent queen whom no king dared treat lightly. Why would a rich and powerful queen travel thousands of miles across harsh desert to reach Jerusalem? The Bible says she heard of Solomon's fame concerning the name of the Lord and came to test him with hard questions. But this was far more than intellectual curiosity. In the political and economic context of the ancient world, it was a major diplomatic mission. Solomon was building the Jerusalem Temple, a project that required enormous quantities of gold, precious timber, and incense. The kingdom of Sheba controlled the world's primary supply of the most valuable incense. Their meeting was not just a battle of wits, it was trade negotiation that could reshape regional power. Moreover, in a male-dominated world, a queen personally leading negotiations with one of the most powerful kings was an act of unprecedented boldness. She sent no ambassador. She did not bow or ask permission. She came as an equal, ready to challenge the man reputed to be the wisest in the world. The legendary retinue. The Bible describes her arrival in breathtaking terms. She came with a very great caravan, with camels carrying spices, large quantities of gold, and precious stones. 2 Chronicles records that she gave Solomon 120 talents of gold, approximately 4.5 tons, and a very great quantity of spices, the largest amount ever brought to Jerusalem. Imagine hundreds of camels crossing the desert, each laden with hundreds of pounds of gold and incense. Jewish legend claims the value of her gifts equaled everything Solomon had acquired in many years of his own reign. This was not a modest delegation seeking favors. It was a spectacular display of absolute power. Midrashic sources add exotic details, strange animals never before seen in Israel, chests filled with pearls and red coral, rare woods from the distant east. The journey from southern Arabia to Jerusalem was no small undertaking, roughly 2,400 kilometers of brutal desert. At the pace of an ancient camel caravan, it would have taken 2 to 3 months. This was an enormous commitment for any ruler, especially a queen governing a vast kingdom. The Bible simply says the Queen of Sheba tested Solomon with hard questions, and that nothing was too hard for the king to explain to her. But what were these riddles? Fortunately, Jewish midrashim preserve many of the riddle's tradition attributes to her. They are not simple logic puzzles, but profound questions about nature, gender, family, and society. Riddle about oil. Out of the eater came something to eat. I come from the earth. I am poured like water, and if mishandled, I can burn a house. What am I? Solomon. Oil. Riddle of distinguishing sexes. She presented a group of children, half boys and half girls, all identically dressed, and asked Solomon to tell them apart without direct examination. Solomon ordered roasted nuts and grains scattered before them. The boys boldly gathered them into the hems of their garments. The girls, fearing exposure, tucked them into their outer clothing. Solomon declared which were which. Riddle of circumcision. She brought men, some circumcised and some not, and asked Solomon to distinguish them. Solomon signaled the high priest to open the Ark of the Covenant. The circumcised Israelites bowed in reverence. The uncircumcised showed no reaction. Riddle about pregnancy. With 7 it leaves me. With 9 it enters me. 2 produce liquid while 1 drinks. Who am I? Solomon. A fertile woman. 7 are her days of menstruation. 9 are the months of pregnancy. 2 are her breasts. 1 is the child who nurses. These riddles were far more than intellectual games. They reveal the Queen of Sheba's profound understanding of human nature, society, and the natural world. Her questions about gender, reproduction, and religious identity show her not only as a clever ruler, but as a genuine philosopher. The Midrashim stress that Solomon answered not by his own wisdom, but by the wisdom God gave him. This underscores that the contest was ultimately a demonstration of divine wisdom through Solomon. Yet the Queen of Sheba was in no way inferior. The fact that she could pose riddles no one else could solve shows her intellect was at least the equal, if not the superior, of almost everyone present. Only Solomon, divinely blessed, could answer them all. In that cultural context, a woman daring to challenge a male king intellectually was extraordinarily rare. It marks the Queen of Sheba as a symbol of female intellectual power in a patriarchal world. While the Hebrew Bible and the Quran mention no romantic relationship, the Ethiopian Kebra Nagas tells a completely different tale. After Makeda accepts Solomon's god, he hosts a farewell banquet with extremely spicy food and withholds water. He then invites her to spend the night in the palace on condition that she take nothing from his house without permission. She agrees. In the middle of the night, dying of thirst, she drinks from a water jar. Solomon appears and declares she has broken her oath. Water is something from his house, and therefore he may take something from her body. 9 months after returning home, she gives birth to a son, Menelik, full name Benalakum, son of the wise man. When Menelik grows up, he travels to Jerusalem. Solomon joyfully recognizes his son and wants him to stay and rule Israel. But Menelik returns to Ethiopia, taking with him the firstborn sons of Israel's nobles and priests. Here the story becomes truly dramatic. Azariah, son of high priest Zadok, and the other young nobles resent being exiled forever. They conspire to steal the Ark of the Covenant and take it to Ethiopia. On the night of departure, Azariah drugs the banquet guests, enters the temple through a secret door, swaps the real Ark for a copy, and hides it in an ordinary cart. The next morning, Menelik's caravan departs. When Solomon discovers the theft, he sends troops in pursuit. But according to the Kebra Nagas, the carts hovered above the ground and traveled faster than eagles. By the time Solomon's army reaches the coast, Menelik has already crossed to Ethiopia opposite Mount Sinai. God appears to Solomon in a dream and tells him not to pursue the ark further, for it is his will. The ark must leave Jerusalem because Solomon took too many foreign wives and turned away from the Lord. The transfer symbolizes divine favor moving from Israel to Ethiopia. Today, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church claims the ark is still kept in the Church of St. Mary of Zion in Aksum, guarded by a single monk who alone is permitted to see it. The love story and the child do not appear in the Bible or Quran. Why did Ethiopians create it? Scholars believe the Kebra Nagas was compiled in the early 14th century with a clear political purpose, to legitimize the new Solomonic dynasty that overthrew the Zagwe dynasty in 1270. By claiming direct descent from Solomon in possession of the ark, the new rulers gained unassailable religious and political legitimacy. This does not mean the story is pure invention. Many scholars believe it rests on much older oral traditions, possibly going back to the 6th century CE, later edited and expanded for 14th century political needs. For nearly 700 years, every Ethiopian emperor claimed to be a direct descendant of Menelik I. Emperor Haile Selassie, ruled until 1974, was officially the 225th in that line. A queen in a man's world. In antiquity, women ruling kingdoms independently were extremely rare. Most queens held power only as wives, mothers, or daughters of kings. The Queen of Sheba was different. Every source portrays her as an independent sovereign, not dependent on any man. She made her own diplomatic decisions, controlled her kingdom's wealth, and negotiated face-to-face with one of the ancient world's most powerful kings. Evidence exists of strong queens in Egypt and Arabia, both before and after the biblical period, circa 10th century BCE. The Egyptian pharaoh Hatshepsut, 1479 to 1458 BCE, famously sent an expedition to Punt, the land of incense on the Horn of Africa, and ruled with full pharaonic authority. Some have tried to link her expedition to the Sheba story, though the connection is considered tenuous. Her real power lay not only in wisdom or beauty, but in controlling one of the ancient world's most valuable resources: incense. Sheba monopolized the production and export of frankincense and myrrh from trees that grew only in parts of modern Yemen and Oman. These resins were worth their weight in gold and were essential for religious rites across Egypt, Mesopotamia, Israel, and the Mediterranean. The incense route ran from Marib across the Arabian desert through Petra to Gaza on the Mediterranean coast. Sheba sat at the very beginning of the supply chain. Without Sheba, there was no incense. That control gave the Queen of Sheba enormous negotiating leverage. Her visit to Solomon was a trade summit between two economic superpowers. The Queen of Sheba represents something exceedingly rare in ancient history: a woman wielding real, independent power. She traveled freely, negotiated with foreign kings, and made political and economic decisions on her own authority. An early form of female empowerment almost unknown in ancient records. In every tradition, she is portrayed as intelligent, intellectually curious, and capable of challenging even the wisest men. She is defined not by beauty or fertility, but by intellect and political strength. That is why she became an important feminist icon in all three Abrahamic faiths: a seeker of divine wisdom in Judaism, a convert to true faith in Islam, and, in Jesus' own words, Matthew 12:42, Luke 11:31, a woman who traveled from the ends of the earth to hear Solomon's wisdom. No tomb, no identified tomb of the Queen of Sheba exists. Unlike most ancient rulers, there is no mausoleum, no stele, no pyramid claiming to be her final resting place, no signature, no inscription, royal seal, or coin bears her name or image. Thousands of Sabaean inscriptions name many kings and high priests, but none can be definitively identified as the biblical queen. No portrait. We do not know what she looked like. Every modern image is an artistic imagination, not historical evidence. Modern theories. Did Sheba exist? Archaeologists remain cautious. The main problem is chronology. The biblical visit is dated to the 10th century BCE, but most Sabaean evidence begins only in the 8th century BCE, a gap of about 200 years. Three main theories. 1. A historical figure heavily mythologized. 2. A political symbol personifying trade relations between Israel and southern Arabia. 3. A complete literary invention to glorify Solomon. The truth probably lies somewhere in between. The unprovable truth, why she still matters whether she existed or not. Her story has shaped three great civilizations for 3 millennia. She remains one of the earliest and most enduring symbols of female power, intellect, and independence. A woman who needed no tomb because she lives in the stories we still tell, in the questions we still ask, and in every woman who dares to challenge kings. Conclusion. The woman who needs no tomb. 3,000 years ago, a caravan may have left Jerusalem heading south across the desert, led by a queen who came seeking wisdom, and left a legacy that would outlast empires. We do not know her real name. We do not know her face. We do not know where her bones lie. But we know her story, or at least the stories 3 great civilizations have told about her. Perhaps that is exactly what she wanted. Some people are not remembered in stone and bone, but in ideas and inspiration. The Queen of Sheba may have left no body, but she left a legacy: the hunger for truth, the courage to seek wisdom, and the conviction that a woman can stand as an equal to any man, and even challenge him, and win. In the world of myth and memory, she never dies. 3,000 years later, the Queen of Sheba is still crossing the desert, not on camelback, but in our imagination, reminding us that some people need no grave. They live forever in the stories we tell and the questions we dare to ask.